I just want to tell everybody, our viewers, that what we're going to do is we're going to go through the movie Beautiful Boy, which we're watching, and we're going to dispel all the myths that it's discussing and promoting throughout the movie. Addiction myths, drug effect myths, myths about recovery or misinformation or anything that isn't factually correct, just so you can see from a popular movie just how our culture continues to promote ideas that take the power out of a human and they put it into a lifeless substance called a drug, which is inappropriate. It's not factually correct, and how this harms people. And hopefully when people are watching us correct or show you that these myths are promoted throughout movies, you'll be able to spot them yourselves and become aware that you're being taught mythology, what we call the addiction religion, which is a belief system, a construct. So that's what our goal is with taping us watching this movie, The Beautiful Boy. Go ahead.
The other thing about this is, though, is we understand that this is a true story.
Yeah.
It is a true story. And what it shows, being a true story, is how the addiction myths actually create the scenario you're going to see in this movie. It creates the problem. It blows it up into something that it doesn't have to be. And so that's what this movie depicts more than anything. It doesn't depict the ravages of addiction. It doesn't depict how people are victimized. It depicts how people are victimized by misinformation, but not by an imaginary disease called addiction.
That I look at him, this kid that I raised, who I thought I knew inside and out, and I wonder who he is. He's been doing all sorts of drugs, but he's addicted to crystal meth, which seems to be the worst of all of them.
Okay, stop right there. Crystal meth is, ironically, one of the drugs that people get over
The quickest.
Yeah, the quickest. And if you factor in age over time, over 96% of the people that use crystal meth stop, whether they're treated or not. And so it's not one of the worst drugs. It's actually one of the most innocuous. And ironically, in the drug Adderall, which is basically prescription strength crystal meth, we give it to children
As young as 3.
to the tune of millions of people. So this is not, it's kind of ironic that we prescribe it to children, and then when people use it recreationally, we imbue it with this power that it's the worst drug and that if you take it once, you'll always take it, and none of that is factually correct. So this is a case where we're not discounting that this person might have struggled horribly, feel addicted, they probably felt addicted, the parents felt powerless. We're not discounting any of that. But factually speaking, if people talked about it without the hysteria and panic, the instant panic and crisis that you feel, you'd be able to look at the facts and say, oh, people get over this. There's no physical addiction with crystal meth, no need for detox whatsoever. So there's nothing physical happening except for loss of sleep and your metabolism increasing. So there's a lot of misinformation.
He's been gone for 2 days.
What do you mean he's gone? What's going on?
I don't know.
2 days? Why didn't you tell me sooner?
I didn't want to worry you, I guess.
I'm his mother, David. Didn't you see this coming?
No.
What?
No, I didn't see it coming. If I'd seen it coming, I would have done something.
It was just a question, David. Jesus. I haven't been talking with him a lot lately.
Well, maybe that's why you shouldn't be giving me advice in parenting, right? Fuck, Vicky. Could we just not blame each other right now?
Who's blaming who here? If I hardly ever see him, it's because he's supposed to come to LA for the holidays, but always finds a reason not to come.
Well, that's not my fault, is it?
setup already to he's got problems because his parents got divorced.
Oh, good. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they don't get along clearly. There's all this strife, so trauma equals addiction.
And here's what's interesting about what you bring up, because we address this in the freedom model over and over in the learned connections, is there are more people who have divorced parents and don't use drugs.
Right.
So, when you're a researcher, you can't toss out this massive amount of people that have trauma, stress, anxiety, broken families, and don't get high.
Don't.
At all, or are at moderate levels, but most don't as a percentage. So it is a setup, and they're going to connect it, and once it's connected, people believe it's fact.
Right, because it looks plausible.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, and we cover this in the book. There are reasons for use. So if you're taught that there is a connection between a broken home and substance use, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then that becomes your truth. That becomes your reality, and it becomes a reason, not a cause. You're not caused to use. Cause is like, if you take a match and you put it to gasoline, it'll light
Right.
every time. There's no causes for addiction. There are just reasons for use. So that's important.
They're professionals. Let's just listen to what they have to say.
Look, I'm 18, all right? You can't force me.
Hey. This got out of hand, right? Don't you think? Come on.
All right. Okay. Okay. I'm doing it for you.
I just have to say, this is so prickly for me that's watching this, because seeing all the people sitting there smoking, it's like it brings back the trauma of treatment, the trauma of 12-step and all of that. So this is a sacrifice to watch this movie. And the fact that he's forcing him, which is what every parent does, not every parent, panicked parents do, forcing him to go to an addiction counselor so that he can be diagnosed with addiction and then put through a system that is designed to keep him stuck.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. This whole, we were products of the system, and it is difficult to watch. As soon as you see the coffee cups and the cigarettes and everybody hanging out on the stoop, it's like you're looking at lives on hold.
Yeah.
And being, that's why we call it the recovery trap. And he's getting sucked in. You can see it. And what's interesting is they're going to depict this. They're going to make him out to be a sick, broken person.
Yep.
I can see. I know nothing of this movie.
Nothing. I know.
I know nothing of this movie.
Or the book. I didn't read the book first.
So I can see where this is going. He's going to be diagnosed with addiction. They're going to say they're going to have dire consequences. They're going to talk about the dire consequences and how much he needs to stop his life and become a part of. He'll become a person in recovery.
Right, and that'll be his success story.
Yeah.
When I know right now he's only in his mid-20s in real life. So, and right now he's talking as if he's a success story. But in my estimation, success means that you're free.
Yeah.
And you're not stuck in a system of perpetual recovery and scared of relapse and scared of triggers and scared of all of these things, it's just not a good way to live.
Well, it's a distraction to whether he really wants to get high or not, which never gets addressed in treatment. It gets skipped right over, and abstinence is the only way. And because treatment is afraid to ask the question, why do you like to get high?
Yep.
Go ahead.
He needs treatment, and fast.
There it is.
He needs it
There's
fast.
still a lot of drugs in the system. And worst of all, he's in denial.
Oh! Jesus Jesus Christ, I have to stop this.
Can you help him?
He's not in denial. What he probably said to her was, I can take it or leave it. He was telling her the truth.
Right.
He likes it. What he was trying to say to her was, I like getting high. I have my own reasons for doing it. I want to do it right now. I'm not interested in stopping. I get that it's dangerous. I get that my dad doesn't want me to do it and my mom doesn't want me to do it. I don't care.
Just because a behavior is risky doesn't mean people are in denial about it. Doesn't mean they don't want to do it. People do risky things all the time.
All the time.
Now, please understand, we're not advocating drug use. All use is risky.
All of it.
But when an 18-year-old says, I can take it or leave it, they can.
They can.
They can.
God, don't force them to think they can't. I mean, that's the tragedy of it all.
That's the trap.
You know, it's getting him to play the game, which he doesn't have a choice now. Now he's sucked in.
Because denial is a catch-22.
And
if you deny you have the problem, if you say, I don't have the problem, with the
you
theory,
need it. You need treatment worse.
Yeah, that means you have the problem.
Right.
So
you're not allowed.
So you either acquiesce and say, I have a problem, and agree with them and get sucked into the trap, or if you say, I don't have a problem, then you're in denial, and it means you have a problem. So you see, there's no avenues. All roads lead to treatment, which is about the almighty dollar.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of the people here are not here by choice. And they have just as much chance as anybody.
Okay.
And that's not true either.
So we have a free bed. So if you want, we can check him in for a 28-day treatment, and then we evaluate.
You actually have to want it to work. That's actually a chapter in our book.
What is your success rate?
On the high end, 80%. On the low end,
Oh!
25%.
Oh, she is a liar, and I wanted to say the F word there. She's a liar. There is not a treatment program in the world that has an 80% success rate.
Now let's talk about success. Success is abstinence, because that's that's the goal of treatment. So
She may be talking about completion rate, but even then, completing a program, usually it's about 50% or less, especially when people are
45%.
forced.
The average is 45%.
But ironically, many of these places throw out people that got kicked out for using
sample
drugs
size.
or whatever. So, right, they're like, oh, the people that really wanted it, this many people stuck it out.
Right.
So, liar. She's, wow, lie. 25% on her low end is even generous.
Yeah,
Most
it's
treatment
5 to
programs,
20%.
it's 5 to 20.
Which, by the way, is lower than a brief intervention without treatment.
Yeah.
Which is 30%.
That's true. That's all he's going to get.
He'll be monitored very closely.
That's probably not true.
Thank you. And last page.
Everything.
So, just hold on a moment.
Everything.
So he took him to a treatment program to be evaluated. Before they evaluated him, they ran his insurance to make sure that they could get paid maximum. Then they evaluate him, and then they say, oh, he's in denial. He needs to be here very quickly, because they found out that the insurance would pay in full. And they charged his credit card. So they got his copay and his whatever deductibles he had right up front. And they're getting paid right up front for a kid that does not want to be here, that is not interested in this.
It's gonna be good.
What is he gonna do? Make coffee for the rest of his life?
You know what? Frederick told me that they have friends that had a son that did a 4-week program, and that wasn't enough. And now he's doing a year program.
I wish you wouldn't talk to everybody about it.
What does that got to do with anything?
To protect Nick. I mean, at some point he's gonna want to get on with his life. And maybe it's best that not everybody knows about this.
Okay.
That's actually the right way to think about it.
Can we not make this
So-
about me?
All right.
Look, Nick needs some...
So this story is as much about the indoctrination of the father, because you can see he's
rebelling.
He's rebelling. He's like, wait a minute, halfway house, this does not seem like a good plan.
Right. What happened to progress for my son? You know, whether the son wants to go to college or not, the son is now using treatment to avoid the responsibility of college and rebel against his father. And the father is going, wait a minute, what happened to our plans? And if treatment wasn't involved, would the kid have gone to college? Would he have moved through that window? Maybe he wouldn't have, like, I hated college. Right?
Yeah, I did too.
But I got through it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see that he's torn. He's saying, what is he going to make coffee? And he's right.
He is right. He is going to make coffee the rest of the day. He is going to be that old guy that he was looking at. You know, that's the treatment trap.
Relapse is a part of recovery.
Relapse is part of recovery?
Yeah, it's a part of Nick's learning process.
Well, that's like saying crashing is part of pilot training.
That's a good analogy.
Wow, that was a good analogy.
I might use that. So the recovery community has always used, they set the standard at abstinence, which is a false sort of standard, because most people moderate as time goes on.
Right, they're not totally abstinent from all substances.
Right.
But most people stop using illicit substances as they mature.
As they mature. So they mature out of the problem, if they're not indoctrinated into this model. So they set the standard at abstinence, which is not a good standard, because they force people to skip right over the questions of whether they like to get high or not, which is actually how you get over the problem, is figuring that out. And then, when it fails, because inevitably it fails for a whole host of reasons, because they're not addressing the actual problem, then they blame the person, or they just say it's just part of recovery. And it's oxymoronic, because it literally is what he just said. He's right. The parent is right. If your standard is abstinence, and they're not abstinent, then the method failed.
Right.
You know, if you had cancer and they said you're going to be healed by chemotherapy and you're not healed by chemotherapy, then the chemotherapy failed in that individual. That's a fact. Everybody would accept that. But in this disease, they set the standard, they fail, and they say the failure is part of the success.
Right.
Isn't that bizarre?
Right. The truth of the matter is, when somebody learns the freedom model, using substances is part of a learning process. You figure out what you like about it, what you don't like about it. You figure out how much you want to use, how much you don't want to use. But when your standard is, when it's an all or nothing proposition, which a lot of us that overcame substance use problems are that way anyways, where we're just all or nothing people, the key is to learn not to be that way. Whereas treatment literally makes it the only option.
Yeah, you're either drunk or you're abstinent. There's no in between, and it's forced upon you. That narrative is forced upon you, and
So this is his indoctrination too. She's going to explain to him so he can accept that every time his son relapses, it's part of the process.
Yeah.
Tragic.
When I tried it, I felt better than I ever had, so I just kept on doing it.
I was worried that you were smoking too much pot. Meanwhile, you're out doing every drug on the planet and hiding it and lying. Why?
Because you don't approve.
I don't know.
Why, Nick? Tell me why.
I don't know.
I thought we were close.
I
thought we
it.
were closer than
Say
most
it.
fathers and sons.
And I feel like you're always disappointing me. You're disappointed I didn't go to college.
Can you blame me? Just not too long ago, you were reading and you were writing and you were on the water polo team. And look at us now.
Dad,
This isn't us.
Stop.
This is not who we
Please,
are.
both of you, stop.
Dad, I'm really sorry about everything. Dad, I'm really sorry, Dad.
Translated, I'm sorry you found out.
Nick, what?
You as a parent don't get to decide what kind of adult your kid becomes. That's a hard pill to swallow.
It is tough.
But that's what this is about. Is I hate to say it, I get what this parent is going through, but what he's just done is basically told this kid that he thinks that he's a piece of shit. That's what I got from that exchange, is that, you know, how could you like this? So is your kid going to tell you the truth when you've made it very clear that you think that this is terrible behavior and that he shouldn't want to do it? You're never going to tell the truth.
No.
So this conversation is so typical, and it's typical of the way treatment sets it up. Treatment set up this conversation. You know, so there's this, you know, the treatment talks about a stigma, and that that the disease concept is supposed to get rid of the stigma. The problem is the stigma is with substance use. It's not with people that go off the deep end, or it's with substance use itself. There's a stigma attached to wanting to be high.
Yeah, we don't approve it in our culture.
We don't. Even though his father admitted to him that he did a bunch of drugs when he was his age.
Right.
So why doesn't he go back in his brain and go, you know, I did drugs too and I really liked it, but I ended up figuring out how to maneuver through life without making it everything.
Well, here's the situation too. Treatment sets up the idea that drugs make you, the kid said it, that you'll never like anything more.
That's right.
That it changes the brain, that it turns on all these receptor sites and shuts these others down, and which is a lot of theoretical stuff out there. But that you'll always, always, always crave, that nothing can compete. Well, if you teach people that, then why do you expect them not to find value in it? Here's the situation. What we do is we say, why do you like it? Let's challenge the benefits and see if the drug actually does pharmacologically what you're saying it does. Does it shut off life? No. Nope, it doesn't. And life keeps cruising forward, and then you run into more problems. So this illusion that you have that there's these benefits, a lot of the benefits aren't as big as you think they are. But the problem is that treatment and our culture builds the drug into such a monstrous benefit.
Right. That it's so wonderful, nothing else will ever compare.
Right. And so now you have to starve yourself of the very thing that is your lifeblood, the only thing that can make you happy, and you feel nothing but deprived. So do you really expect that you are deprived in treatment, you are deprived in recovery, and then you're supposed to stay there? All that does is make the drug look more attractive in comparison.
Yes.
So recovery becomes the land of deprivation, and then you look out at the drug landscape that you used to live in, and at least you were getting high, and they've built the drug up into this all-elusive, wonderful, incredible thing, and you have no option but to go back to use because you live your life by the pursuit of happiness and the comparison of options. So you keep comparing recovery to this wonderful experience, even though it's probably not that wonderful anymore, but they've built it up to be that.
Yep.
And then on the other side, where abstinence sits, is so depressing because nobody's saying maybe with abstinence, moderation, or whatever option you pick, there is a happier existence. And the numbers prove it out.
Yep.
When people get away from treatment, get away from this nonsense, get away from the cultural narrative, and they ask themselves, geez, I think I want to move on with my life. They do. Yeah. They do when they let go of the mythology. So it's what this is depicting is very accurate.
It
by
is.
the way. It's very accurate. It's unfortunate. It's sad. And he's in the trap, and now the parents are in the trap, and the father's freaking out because he's terrified because treatment and the family programs that they offer terrify parents.
Yeah, it's a lifelong diagnosis.
Yeah.
So this is for the New York Times Magazine?
Oh, no. I write, I freelance for different magazines, but this is a personal matter.
Personal matter?
Yes, I'm sorry. Is that okay?
No, it's absolutely okay. You may ask what this is regarding.
It's about my son.
Okay.
He's been doing all sorts of drugs, but he's addicted to crystal meth, which seems to be the worst of all of them. And I guess I'm here because I just want to know all that I can about all of it.
So, crystal meth gives the user a feeling of instant euphoria, at least when he takes it. But when it wears off with a depletion of as much as 60% of the dopamine, the user has to up the doses.
No, he doesn't.
Double it, triple it, just to feel something, causing even more nerve damage, which increases the compulsion to use.
Okay, that's simple mythology. That's total mythology. There's no doubt that the drug affects your brain. We don't deny that.
And it makes and for some people it makes them feel really good.
And you do come down. What goes up comes down. There's no doubt that that happens. But most of that effect is due to lack of sleep, because you're up, you're on speed. And but if you really want to understand exactly what crystal meth does and what the reality of it is, again, I'm going to point to Carl Hart's research. Look it up. He's done phenomenal work in that area, and he's probably the foremost researcher on it, rather than go through all that research.
And he's a neuroscientist.
Yes.
So he debunks a lot of this. All this, chemicals in the brain sounds really good, and it impresses people because they use big words. But what it amounts to is people like the feeling of being high, and so they'll keep using it. But they don't. You don't hear about a lot of people dying of crystal meth. I mean, you just don't. People don't use it until they die.
Yeah, it's got the shortest tenure of any drug. So people get high for a while on it, and it wears you out because you don't sleep a lot and you don't eat. And then you move on to either another drug or you just move on with your life.
If what he's saying is true,
everybody that tried it would die from it.
Yeah, they would use it until they were dead.
And so this idea of loss of control, or the idea that drugs contain addictiveness, which is what he's really trying to say. Drugs don't contain addictiveness because addiction is actually a person's preference for use, which is mental. It's not physical. Now that we're not denying that there's some physical ramifications of all drugs. There is. But that doesn't drive one to use unless they believe it and learn that that's what drives them to use.
Exactly.
Once you learn that, it becomes the truth.
You create it.
Yes. And it becomes your reality, and you take on the addict identity. So we're not saying that these drugs don't have effects, that people don't feel addicted. They do. I did for many years.
Me too.
But what we're saying is that, factually speaking, what he's saying is false until you believe it.
Right.
And that's the devastation of treatment and the recovery community, because the myth becomes reality when somebody believes it. But pharmacology doesn't drive use. What the effects you feel isn't what causes someone to use. What causes somebody to use is their preference. They have reasons for it. So they're not caused to use. They can stop. And crystal meth addicts, by and large, over 96% of them will stop, and you won't see any adverse effects over a week or two.
That is linked with anxiety and fear. Here, the amygdala is screaming.
No, you don't know that.
That's right. You don't know what a person's
What this
thinking.
shows us is that there is a biological basis that meth users may be unable, not unwilling, but unable to participate in normal treatment programs.
No,
I mean,
that's
we
not
have
true
to.
either.
This is just
3
fiction.
times. Ran away every time.
Why?
Stop this for a second.
It was hell.
If this is true, if what he's saying is true, then why do over 96% of crystal meth users stop? That fact is ignored. That fact is ignored in treatment completely.
And the brain scans he's showing could be anything.
Could be sex, could be food, could be anything that you prefer.
Could be learning how to drive. I mean,
And here's something that throws that entire theory right out the window. The people in those studies that stopped so they could get the post-addicted brain scans were at the height of their addiction.
yeah.
But I gotta point out, they stopped.
Right. Right, or there wouldn't be post brain scans.
Right. So here we have a theory that you can't stop.
You're incapable. Not unwilling, he said that. Not unwilling, but unable.
So your theory in the actual study is that you can't stop based on these brain scans, but yet they're brain scans of people that stopped.
Okay.
How absurd is that? How absurd is that? At the height of their addiction.
Want to die?
Oh. Hasn't changed at all. His face.
So how you doing?
I'm doing great, you know, just doing what needs to be done.
What does that mean?
Just being responsible for myself and
Figuring it out.
on my own, you know, so I got 5 days now.
He's figuring it out, but unfortunately, he probably already believes he's, based on his writings and stuff, that he is forever damaged.
Well, what he said is, I got 5 days now.
Oh.
Right before you start speaking, he goes, I got 5 days now. So he's counting the days, so he's living one day at a time, which is the mantra that you never get over the problem. So pretty much he's doomed to go back to it because, again, nobody's addressing the why he prefers it.
Right.
I feel like I'm doing well, but I just need a few $100 though.
Nick, I can't give you any money.
Yeah. Okay. It's just $200. I just need to get shit together. I want to go to New York.
New York?
Yeah. I need to get out of San Francisco. There's too many always fucking bad vibes here all the time. Yeah, I just need a few $100.
Why don't we just have lunch and talk? We can do that, right?
How's Karen and the kids?
Okay. They ask about you. Is there step up next week? And I know they'd love to see you.
You're guilt tripping me, all right?
No, I'm just saying.
I feel horrible about myself.
I know they wanted you to be there, that's all.
I'm sorry, Dad. I just need some fucking money, all right? So please just give me some fucking money.
Where does this end?
I gotta see this one through. This is kind of working out for me right now. I got 5 days sober.
It doesn't look like it's working out, Nick.
Oh, it doesn't look like it's working out? So what, then therapy, huh?
You can come home.
No, that wouldn't...
Make it work, please, Nick.
So they're now in the charade, fully in the charade.
I've been doing some research.
Been doing fucking research? You gotta be kidding me, Dad.
You think that you have this under control. And I understand how scared you are.
I understand why I do things. It doesn't make me any different, all right? I'm attracted to craziness, and you're just embarrassed because I was like, this amazing thing, like your special creation or something, and you don't like who I am now.
Yeah? Who are you, Nick?
This is me, Dad. Here, this is who I am.
That was the most honest thing. He's exactly right. Nick is exactly right. And that is, the reason parents struggle so much with their kids is because they're their creation, and you have this image of who they're going to become, and when they don't become that, when they start to struggle with whatever, because I don't know too many teenagers that don't struggle with identity. And he was right, but now we're going to systematically watch how he's not right. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that what happens is you have a situation that's filled with so much misinformation and hysteria that nobody's slowing it down, which is what we do in the family workshop. Nobody's slowing it down to go, wait a minute. Before we start yelling at each other,
right?
Why don't we figure out why you like it? Let me listen to the fact. What he wants to scream is, I do have it under control, I just like it and you don't approve of it. And then you fall into that sort of adolescent mode. And I've seen parents where they have a 40-year-old.
Yes.
And they're still behaving.
All of this.
Right. The kid is behaving, the adult child, is now acting like an adolescent. The parent is disapproving of
The
their
parent's
choices.
acting like a parent of an adolescent.
And I get it. I get why parents.
Oh, I do too.
If you're doing the research like this father did, I mean, he was so thorough in gaining the misinformation.
Right.
Right.
He's terrified.
He's utterly, completely terrified, and the son doesn't have a solution. So what he has is a bunch of guilt for liking something that he likes, and nobody's saying, why do you like it? Maybe there's an option that's better. And so they're going back and forth, and it's going nowhere. And the sadness is that tens of thousands of parents are going to do this today in America.
I know.
They're going to have this conversation based on misinformation. They're missing each other completely. And what they really need to know is, your kid can get over this.
Yes.
That kid needs to know that crystal meth doesn't really provide him what he thinks it's providing. Nobody's challenging the benefits. He's been taught that it's the end-all, be-all, that nothing will compare, that his brain is changed. All of this isn't true.
Right.
So everybody's playing a role, and that's why Michelle called it the charade. It's the charade. It's a play that we've developed. It's the cultural concept of addiction and recovery. And really, he at some fundamental level still loves getting high.
And the lifestyle around it, but now he feels total shame for liking it, and won't admit anymore. I love this,
right?
And I want to keep doing it.
And here's the other part to this: when it gets to this level, when you get high long enough, when you get drunk long enough, the luster starts to go away. But treatment's telling you that it literally is the best thing in the world, right? But your personal experience is that you're pretty bored with it. Mm-hmm. It's becoming mundane. The costs are getting higher, and you're getting tired. And so you're getting really confused now because you're not even getting the payoff.
Right.
So you're not getting the payoff. Everybody is on your back. You now have a criminal record. You're going down this horrendous path. You believe you're addicted. And somebody needs to step in and say, whoa, do you still enjoy this? Not as much. Right? But I'm afraid I'll go through detox. I'm afraid that I'll be dope sick. I'm afraid I'll have to go through all this stuff. And
I don't want to have to go back to rehab.
Yeah. I don't want to be in recovery.
No, I don't want to be in recovery.
And what I'm saying is you never have to be in recovery. You can be free. You can move past all of this. Nobody's saying that you can move past it yet. 9 out of 10 crystal meth addicts move past it on their own, whether they're treated or not.
Damn.
That's what's so tragic here.
You charge $40,000 a month.
It's not even that well rated. We'll just skip that one.
Listen, if the spark opens up here in Los Angeles, maybe that's the best solution for now. I'll hear back from them in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a rest, David. Why don't you let me take over for now?
Yeah. Will you check on me every 15 minutes?
Yes. Close your eyes. Have no fear. The monster's gone. He's on the run, and your daddy's here. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy.
Do you want to bring one of your dinosaurs too?
Beautiful across the street. How about a book? Take my hand. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making ready? Hey. Can I hug? No? Why not? You mad at me? Because you have to go? Good. Well, be happy to see mommy though, right? I want you to know something. When you come back, I'm gonna be here, right? I'm gonna be right here for you. Okay? And call me when you miss me and I'll call you. Do you know how much I love you? If you could take all the words in the language, it still wouldn't describe how much I love you. And if you could gather all those words together, it still wouldn't describe what I feel for you. What I feel for you is everything. I love you more than everything.
Everything?
Yeah, everything.
Playground effect went through my head, and that is there are kids that fly across the country to see grandparents and parents and do all of this stuff, and obviously the significance here is this was a scary thing for this kid, right? Because he's going to get on a plane by himself, and you know that this kind of in the father's mind, he's like, this is how I set this up, this addiction thing. You know, is that they obviously got divorced when the kid was young and he got custody, and, you know, the kid brought it up. You shouldn't have gotten custody, whatever. And, but our kids look to us for cues on how awful something is. That's the playground effect. If a kid falls on the playground, you know, you have mothers like I was where I'm like, you're fine. You know, keep moving. And then you have the mothers that run over and, oh my God, this is terrible. This is a tragedy. And that's what happens with addiction. Everything becomes this, it must have been that trauma or this trauma that was the tragedy that made it. So now he's struggling.
Right, the fertile soil for addiction to take root. And
yeah, no. I mean, this was, truthfully, probably in his son's mind, this is insignificant. He's not thinking of this when he's using drugs. You are as the parent because you're going through everything in your head like
that you did wrong.
But he's not thinking this. He's thinking he wants to get high. He's not thinking I had to get on that plane when I was 6 years old.
Until he goes to treatment.
Right, and they dig that up.
And they dig up all this stuff. Here's in helping people for 30 years, one of the things you find out if you really listen is there are just as many people with really great lives that end up feeling like they're addicted as do have horrible lives.
Yeah.
And so it's important to realize that people get high because at some fundamental level they value it. And the unfortunate part is basically what we do at the retreat is we undo all of this, all of it. And we show people that, you know, you value this for personal reasons. What are those personal reasons? And we get right to the nitty gritty.
Because he can't go back and change this.
You can't look at trauma, stress, anxiety, depression are all normal things in human life. So how are you going to addiction-proof people? You can't. So what treatment does is it sets up a false narrative, and that is that you have to be happy, you have to be stress-free, you have to address your traumas. I don't know how they do that. You have to do all these things, and in order for the person to have this addiction-proof life. And
more than 50% of marriages end in divorce.
Yeah. And
so there's literally tens of millions of children that grow up doing this and that don't have a problem. Right. Never have a problem.
Right. So you're not triggered to use unless you believe you are triggered to use.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went to a couple of rehabs. I detoxed. They would talk about disease, sure. But it never clicked. Until one day I woke up in a hospital and someone asked me, "What's your problem?" And I said, "I'm an alcoholic and an addict." And he said, "No, that's how you've been treating your problem." That's right. I know now I need to find a way to fill this big black hole in me. Anyway, so I'm 14 months clean. I have a job at a rehab.
Oh, God.
It's fulfilling to help other people get sober. I have a sponsor, Spencer. Shows me how great my life can be sober. And I still have a family. My mom's been amazing. My dad's been amazing too.
All right, stop right there. So there's a certain attractiveness to this whole scene that makes it seem
And we
like
got sucked into it. We did this.
So I've been to over 3,000 AA meetings. I've been.
We spoke everywhere.
Yeah, I've been this guy thinking service work was the answer, and because
We devoted our lives to it.
Yeah, because I was taught that, it became my solution, and what's happening here is that he's now fully indoctrinated into the model, and that is he's integrated himself into a system. And the system is completely unnecessary. He could step out of this role. He could not go to meetings. He could literally move on as if the problem didn't exist because...
And have a normal life, which he is craving. The whole thing he's talking about...
That's right.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It is...
Yes.
All I wanted to learn how to be happy, normal. In my brain, normal was with healthy relationships and a decent paying job and being able to pay my bills and be a responsible adult. I wanted to figure out how to be happy that way. And I didn't realize that I could just make the choice to be happy that way.
And here, let's go run an experiment with this. Let's say that you don't fill that void. I know a lot of guys that came through the retreat, didn't do any goal setting whatsoever.
Did none of it.
And moved on from the drug question because they addressed the drug question, which is, I'm not that happy getting high anymore. It doesn't have value to me anymore.
Right.
And they move on. So what he's done is it's sort of a false narrative, and that is you have to be happy and fulfilled to be sober. They connect that. Treatment connects that. I touted that for years.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. And it's wrong. And I'm not saying that you should be unhappy to be sober. That's not the point. The point is you don't have to be anything to be sober. You can just choose to be sober or moderate or whatever level of use you want if you know that drugs and alcohol don't perform the functions that you believe they do. If you know that drugs don't change your mood, that it doesn't change the content of your thoughts, it doesn't alter your state of being. What it does is it slows down the metabolism in your body, and it gives you a warm sensation through your body.
Or speeds it up.
Or speeds it up. So that's all it pharmacologically actually does. Every single other thing, and this is very hard for people to grasp, every other thing that it does is your thoughts imbuing that warm sensation with, oh, I can let go of my world's troubles. And that you could do without the drug.
Yes.
And that's what happens is people suddenly realize somewhere along the line that the drug isn't doing it for them, that they can make the choice to change their life, go in this different direction or that different direction, and it's not dependent on a drug or not a drug. That's inconsequential. That's when you know freedom. When you know that you can change on a dime, change your life in any direction you want, that you can be happier doing this, that you can be happier doing that, and when it's not connected to whether you're sober, happy, when all of that becomes clear, then you're free. You'll be free.
Congratulations, welcome to the real world.
I don't want to live in the real world. I'm so sick of living in it.
That's a disease talking to you, man.
Oh,
It's
my God.
trying to kill you. You know this, man.
I don't feel like I have a disease, Spencer. I feel like
Well, you got...
this isn't like fucking cancer. This is my fucking choice. I put myself here.
Yeah, you did. You did put yourself there. Right, you gonna let me talk? Or what?
He's right.
Okay. You're a writer, right? So write. You're good at it. This is your day. This is your choice. What do you want to do now? Once you get high, you lose all your choices. Okay? You get high, you lose everything.
Right.
So you gotta keep choosing the
That's
right
not
way.
true.
Right. Exactly here.
Right.
That's right.
He's creating a false narrative. His sponsor is creating a false narrative, and that is, once you start, you can't stop. That
And it's
narrative,
all or nothing.
Right, it's all or nothing. If you have one drink, you'll have 1,000 drinks. If you have one hit, you'll never have enough hits. And it's not true. But by creating that fear that the drug has this elusive power, again, it's the power of substances, the idea of loss of control, and all this mythology, you can see that the kid is rejecting it, and he's going, this is my choice, this is my choice. And if the sponsor said, you know what? It is your choice, and let's talk about the choice. What are the benefits of getting high right now? What are the benefits of moderating, or maybe not? And then, you know, what are the benefits of making a different choice? What do you prefer? And have a conversation. Instead, it's a fight. It's an unnecessary fight. And a distraction by saying you have to pick abstinence. That's such a distraction. So the kid never gets, really what he's asking is, God, I want to get high. How come I still want to get high?
Yes, and the 12-step sponsor won't go there because he still wants to get high.
Exactly.
So if he starts talking about, yeah, getting high could be pretty great right now, then the sponsor is going to end up, and that is exactly how that happens too. How people go back out together because, but they don't realize that when you start talking about the benefits, you're halfway to figuring out how you can be happier without it.
See, and also, did you hear what the kid said? What he said was, I don't want to be in real life.
Yes.
Right? So he believes that, and this is one of those tricky things, they've made him believe, or our culture has connected the difficulty of life, which is inevitable.
For everyone,
with substance use. They've tied the two together. Now, there are many cultures where that's not tied together. And they have inherently really, really difficult lives in third world countries, as an example. And not everybody in a third world country gets high and drunk, but everybody has a difficult life because it's third world.
Yeah.
Okay? So if they were inherently connected, if it was like a match to gasoline where no matter what, it was causal, then he would have to get high.
Yep.
You know, he wouldn't have a choice in it. And but he does have a choice. He's sitting there deliberating, being given poor advice.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah, trying to figure it out, but there's no answer for him.
No,
because they're distracting him.
And by what he's saying, he's making it seem more attractive.
Right. Yep.
I used to say that. They would say, call your sponsor, and I can remember asking the question, what the heck is my sponsor going to do?
To change me.
To change my mind.
Yeah.
Because if I've made up my mind, I've made up my mind. I'm not going to call anybody.
Right.
So he hasn't made up his mind.
Right. He's deliberating.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody should help him deliberate.
Choose the right way.
You have these people that have very, very good lives. We have somebody at the retreat now. He said, I have absolutely no reason to get high. I grew up in a wonderfully loving family. I had every opportunity given to me. And therapists were constantly telling me that I was this privileged kid, overprivileged, and I had fear of success. He goes, I didn't have any of that. I just really like to get high.
I like it.
And then I read your book, and I realized maybe I could be happier doing something else. And I came here, and it's miraculous that you allow me to think for myself.
Right. We don't tell you what your problem is. That you have all these problems that give you reasons that getting high seems attractive.
Yeah. Or inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I need you to stay.
Well,
thank you.
Vicky can't handle it.
I don't care about Vicky. This isn't about Vicky.
Okay, why don't you just relax and try to be reasonable?
What? You be reasonable.
I am being reasonable.
Is this reasonable?
Oh, no, it's not. How can I be? My son is out there somewhere, and I don't know what he's doing. I don't know how to help him.
You can't.
That's right.
You can't fix your kids' problems for them, especially when they're an adult, and you don't get to decide how they live. And that's where his frustration is.
Yeah, he's
that
powerless.
He really is powerless,
Yes.
but he feels responsible.
Yep.
So he's got guilt driving him, he's got fear driving him, he's got all these negative emotions driving him.
And the misinformation.
And now all this misinformation piled on top of it, which makes him more scared. And now he is neglecting his family to try to control this person that can't be controlled.
Right. And his family are actually the people that want his resources. But he's spending his resources, emotional, monetary, time, resources, on something he has no control over.
Not at all.
But it's all based on not understanding what actually is the problem, which is his son has a preference for use based on a whole bunch of ideas, many of them being myths, and some of them being legitimate, which is that I like to get high for this reason, and this reason.
That is never addressed.
That is never even discussed. It's never ever broached.
It hasn't been talked about at all.
He should just stop, according to his sponsor.
Yeah.
And his father.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
911, what is your emergency?
Yeah, hi. I'm with a friend. She's OD'd, and I need an ambulance. I need some help.
Sir, do you know CPR?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. I just, you guys have got to send an ambulance too, all right?
What's your location?
Yeah, I don't know. You guys are gonna have to fix the call.
Hello?
That's not the way it works with a
Sir,
cell
are you
phone.
still there?
Look up. Can you look up for me? Can you look up this way? Over here? Okay, look. We're gonna need to take you to the ER. I don't want to. We need to take you to the ER.
She doesn't want to go to the ER.
No, she's not okay. We need to take her
She
to the
doesn't
ER.
want to go.
No, sir. She needs to go. Okay? You have a problem with that? I can inform the police.
God damn it.
No, she can't be taken against her.
Yes.
Everybody,
Yes. I love you too.
and this right here is why people don't call 911 when somebody overdoses. This right here kills people. Because A, you don't have to go to the ER. If you're conscious and you can say no, you can say no, and they have to leave and leave you alone. Now, they can be arrested. That's the other thing. So she just threatens him, I'm going to call the police. Which the police would have been. He said overdose, the police would have been there anyways. Which is exactly why people are left to die. Yeah. Is this exact thing.
Please don't make me dead. I know I did wrong. I want to stop, but please go rehab, all right? Just let me come home. You know what? I realize it's actually, I need to be home, but you guys are going to give me the strength to stop. All right?
That's not going to happen.
It's never a matter of strength.
No.
A person who's a substance user has plenty of strength. We all have the same strength because strength lies in the power of choice. Everybody has infinite free will. So you always can choose differently for yourself. And the idea that his parents can provide him the power is the same idea that a meeting will provide you power.
Or a sponsor.
Or a sponsor, or a therapist, or a method, anything external, but here's the...
Or a substance.
Yeah, or a substance. It's the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that's happening, everything is centered in his desire to get high. And nobody's addressing that. I keep going back to that because this entire movie is depicting how treatment fails.
It is.
I mean, it's one example after another example. Nobody's addressing, nobody's asking him. They've all had tons of ideas. They're prescribing ideas to him. They're saying, you need to stop, you need to stop, you need to stop. And you get high because of this. You get high because of this. You get high because of this. And nobody's saying, wait a minute. Why do you get high?
Yeah, what do you like?
What benefit do you see? Because human beings don't do something they don't want to do.
Not ever.
Ever. It's impossible. It's an impossibility.
That they don't see some value in doing.
Right.
No, Dad, I still at home. Please help me. I don't want to come home.
All I can tell you is what you already know.
Dad, why aren't you fucking listening to me?
Call your sponsor.
I want to talk to my sponsor, Dad. I want to talk to you.
Get help. I love you.
No.
And I hope that you get your life together.
I love you too. I love you.
That was a ballsy move on Dad's part.
Yeah, it was.
And I hope he's not doing that because some treatment center told him that he had to have tough luck.
I'm sure that's what he's doing.
Step in prison. This scene can go one of two ways.
Mm-hmm.
Either he's doing this because he's been told.
Done.
Right.
He may just be done.
Right, that's the other way. So it might be that the treatment centers or a therapist has told him he has to have tough love, and that by no longer allowing his son, he's no longer enabling him. That's the one theory. The other is he's determined, I really have no control, and I can't emotionally do it anymore, which is valid.
It is valid.
It is valid.
The tough love is not valid.
Right.
Because with the tough love scenario, it's this idea that if I cut him off, then it's going to push him to his bottom, and he'll, all of a sudden, do what he needs to do to get clean and sober.
Because that model, the tough love model, is predicated on the idea that he, the father, still has some manipulative control. It's just reverse manipulation. The first manipulation is, I'll give you a car if you stay sober. I'll do this. You can come home, and I'll love you back to sobriety, which didn't work because we're not addressing why the son likes getting high. Right. And the other reverse manipulation is, now I'm going to cut you off from resources because I want to control you that way.
Right.
So the intention behind the decision is really important as a parent to know. What is my intention? Do I believe that I have control? Or do I know I don't have control, and I'm going to make decisions isolated from my son and say, what am I able to handle? What do I want for my life? Because I obviously don't have a control over this person. And that's when, as parents, we become free. Sometimes what that freedom means is I'm going to continue to love them. Sometimes it means to cut them off. Sometimes it means some variation thereof. But that's your decision to make freely, based on what you want for your life and the children you're taking care of, those two little kids in the movie. How much resources do I have left as a parent to give to the younger kids? That might factor into your decision making. So there's all kinds of things. But this idea that I can manipulate my son by no longer enabling him implies that you can enable him. You're not enabling. He's getting high much on his own. You're not enabling anything. He's going to go get high whether he wants.
What you do or don't do has no bearing whatsoever on what your son does.
Because it's what your son does or daughter is based on the preference they have, which is personal to them. So if you want to do anything as a parent, you ask and say, why do you like to get high or drunk?
And you listen.
And you listen. They don't have a disease. You know in your heart that they have full control over their decision making. They obviously find benefit because humans can't do something they don't want to do. So they want to do it at some fundamental value. They're going to be reticent to tell you that because they've been judged so harshly by our culture and told that they shouldn't like substances when they obviously like it a lot.
Right, and by you as their parents.
So there's a whole analysis that can be made about this scene. So hopefully we helped it. Go ahead.
That entire movie
is how the system fails.
Is wow. I thought it was going to be an ad for a treatment in AA. I really thought it was, but what it was is the opposite. It was.
But that's not how people see it because they don't know that an alternative exists to that model. They don't know that there's an actual solution that is logic-based, common sense, and infinitely more effective. And
wow.
that's incredibly sad. So
I'm happy to hear that he's been in recovery. What did they say? 8 years.
yeah,
I'm happy to hear.
of course.
But while he's still tied to recovery,
He'll always pine to get high.
yeah, there's going to be a danger that at some point in time, he's going to decide, I think I should get high.
Or he'll white knuckle it to death. You know, there are those long-term AA and NA members who white knuckle it, and it's this battle, and they define themselves by the battle with their addiction. Here's the crazy part about that is, addiction, when you personify it, when you make it into something like that it's something to be battled, then you have to fight it. Then now you're in a battle.
Yeah.
And that's the great distraction. The real issue, there is no battle, there's just choices to be made. And here's why it looks like a battle, because when a person gets to the point to where the benefits are equal to the cost and you're tipping, it doesn't look all that appetizing anymore.
Right.
So when we say things like, oh, they like getting high, people are saying, hey, that person doesn't like it, look at them. But really what they're doing is they're deliberating. What you're seeing, the struggle is, the internal struggle is, I'm deliberating on a really tough choice. The costs are high, but the benefits are high.
Yeah.
Neither side is really that appetizing anymore. So you're seeing this person, and they depicted it here, where he's just like, oh my God, you know, I don't know what I want to do. And you can wallow in that for a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know? And so there's no battle. There's just a deliberation.
But there are a growing number of people, and we knew them even when we were in AA, who secretly don't buy into it. They keep playing the game.
Yes, the charade.
They keep playing the charade. They keep going to meetings.
They don't even know why they're doing it.
No, they kind of hide in that lifestyle a little bit. They're getting benefits from the lifestyle, the recovery lifestyle. Yeah. But they don't buy into all that. I'm still diseased. I'm powerless. And some of them secretly go over and drink occasionally. They dabble, or they smoke a little pot, and they don't really. So there's a growing number of people who live that kind of double life, which why not just be honest?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
I'll tell you why, because they don't know that they've already moved past it.
They have.
They're being told, and they believe they need recovery, so they're staying in it, but they don't even need it.
No.
They've already moved beyond it, and they don't even know it. I mean, we hear that story all the time. So that, to be honest, was me.
Yeah.
That was me. I was deeply ingrained in the recovery culture because I thought I needed it, and then I thought I had to serve people. I thought I had to be a part of the whole in recovery thing. And then I said one day, this is kind of silly. I just don't really care about any of this anymore. I just want to move on with my life. And now I have a few beers a month, and that's the way that works.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, if you're caught in the trap, there's a way out, and it's by addressing the issue straight on, which is, why do you like it, at some fundamental value, and then we would challenge the benefits of getting high, right? We would, if you believe it has all these magical qualities, we would really pull that apart and see if it actually provides these amazing things you believe it provides you. And what do the facts tell us? And then once you do that, you realize it really doesn't provide you those things. So.